This lesson video is covering 8-2, multiplying a polynomial by a monomial. So basically, we're going to be using the distributive property, and you have to remember all your properties of combining variables with exponents. So here we have our first example, example 1. We have to multiply negative 3x squared times everything in parentheses here. So we're going to distribute that negative 3x squared. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit. We're going to distribute this guy to each of the three terms inside parentheses. So we have it here. I highlighted it. We're going to multiply negative 3x squared times 4x squared, negative 3x squared times 6x, and negative 3x squared times negative 8. Here they put the minus sign outside. So they kept the minus sign here and they said negative 3x squared times 8. Okay, then we can simplify. So negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. X squared times x squared, when you multiply bases, you add exponents. So 2 plus 2 is 4. That's x to the 4th. Okay, so that's that. This whole term becomes this guy. Plus negative 3x squared times 6x. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. X squared times x, when you multiply bases, you add exponents. 2 plus 1 is 3. So negative 18, x to the 3rd. Bring down our minus sign. Negative 3x squared times 8. Negative 3 times 8 is negative 24. And the x squared doesn't get multiplied with anything, so it stays x squared. Now the only thing we have to do is change our signs. When you have two signs touching, you have to replace them with one sign. So when the signs are different, you replace them with a minus. When the signs are the same, you replace them with a plus. So this is our answer at the end. Another way they tell us that we can multiply is what they call vertically. So instead of writing the number we're multiplying by out front and distributing this way, they write them above and below. So this is what was in parentheses, and we're multiplying that by 3x squared. But you're going to do it the same way, right? We put our multiplication sign, and you're going to multiply this times this, this times this, this times this. And the sign in front stays with the number behind it. So negative 3x squared times negative 8 is positive 24x squared. Negative 3x squared times 6x is negative 18x to the 3rd. Negative 3x squared times 4x squared is negative 12x to the 4th. I prefer this top way, but this is just me. I like distributive property. That's easy to me. This way I feel like it's easy to get mixed up with your signs. But if you like multiplying this way, then you go for it. That's as hard as this entire lesson gets. It's not any more difficult than that. If you have a problem with more than one polynomial and monomial being multiplied. So for instance, here I have this negative 2 being multiplied by each term inside parentheses. So this monomial is being multiplied by this binomial. And then I have minus, so everything behind the minus sign is a different term. And I've got x in front, this monomial, multiplied by everything inside parentheses, x squared plus 6x. That's a binomial. So I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm going to distribute this negative 2. And then this negative x here, I'm going to distribute it here. Same thing, it's just two different multiplication problems combined into one. Instead of over here, we just had one big multiplication problem. Okay, so when we start to simplify this guy, negative 2 times 4x squared is negative 8x squared. I'm going to skip this and go right down to here. Negative 2 times 4x squared is negative 8x squared. Negative 2 times 5x is negative 10x. There's a plus sign in between, so we keep that plus sign in between here. Okay, negative x times x squared is x to the 3rd. Now, they kept the negative sign with the x. Doesn't really matter where. To me, I would say this is negative x times x squared. The negative 1 is in front, so we keep the negative 1 in front. And then x times x squared is x to the 3rd, right? So we've got our x to the 3rd with the negative in front. They flip-flopped it opposite. It doesn't matter. This is going to change to a minus sign anyways. So it doesn't matter whether you keep the negative sign with the x or whether you keep the negative sign in front. It's the same difference. And then negative x times 6x is going to be negative 6x squared, which is here. And when we change these two signs, it's going to be minus. So it doesn't matter which goes first. So when we simplify this, we get, what did they do here? Oh, they combine like terms, sorry. So we have an x squared term here, and we have an x squared term here. So they put them together here in the middle. They went ahead and started putting this in standard form. So they put the term here with the biggest exponent, this 3, this guy right here, they put him in front. Then the exponent of 2, those two terms get combined together here. So negative 8x squared and negative 6x squared. And it doesn't matter if you have this plus sign in the middle because it's going to change to a minus sign anyways. And then the only term we have with no exponent, negative 10x, that goes at the end. And then this is going to change to a minus sign as well. So we're going to end up with negative x to the third. Oh, this is a minus sign. Minus 8x squared minus 6x squared. Negative 8x squared minus 6x squared is negative 14x squared. So negative x to the third minus 14x squared. And then we still had this minus 10x hanging off the end. All right, well, we're going to do some examples. If that was confusing to you, we'll do some examples. The rules are the same. They don't change, so it is consistent here. All right, number 1, find each product. We're going to distribute this x to each of those two terms in the binomial. X times 5x is 5x squared, because you multiply the numbers in front. 1 times 5 is 5, and then you multiply the x's, and when you multiply x bases, you add their exponents. 1 plus 1 is 2. Bring down this plus sign. X times x squared is going to be x to the third. When you multiply bases, you add their exponents. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Number 2, we'll just go straight on down here. I'll do it in a different color so they don't run together. Negative 2g times g squared. The negative 2 stays in front. G times g squared is g to the third. Negative 2g times negative 2g. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. G times g is g squared. And then lastly, negative 2g times 2 is negative 4g. Okay, number 7. I'm just going straight down. I'll go across in a second. Number 7, negative 4ax times each of these inside parentheses. So negative 4 times 10 is negative 40. And then I don't have anything to multiply the a and the x by, so it just stays ax. Negative 4ax times 3x. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. A times, there's not an a, so it just stays a. And x times x is x squared. So we're matching up all the like terms, all the like variables or like numbers, putting them together. When the bases are the same and you're multiplying, you add exponents. Okay, coming up here, number 2, we're going to distribute this x to each of these. So x times 4x squared is 4x to the third. X times positive 3x is positive 3x squared. And x times 2 is 2x. Okay, number 5. 3x times x to the fourth. 3 times 1 is 3. x1 times x4, x to the first times x to the fourth is x to the fifth. 3x times x to the third. The 3 stays 3. 3 times 1 is 3. And x times x to the third is x to the fourth. And then 3x times x squared. 3 times 1 is 3. And x times x squared is x to the third. Okay, and then the last one down here. Boom, boom, boom. 3y times negative 4x. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Y times, there isn't another y here, so I just keep it y. And nothing times x, it just stays x, right? If there was another x here, we would add the exponents, but there's not, so it just stays x to the first. 3y times negative 6x to the third. 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. Y times, there's not another y, so it stays y. And nothing times x to the third, x to the third. I'm not saying 0. I'm saying it's like 1. 1 times x to the third is just x to the third. And then lastly, 3y times negative 2y. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. y times y is y squared. Okay, hopefully that's making sense. Okay, number 3. This is a pretty quick lesson, but I feel like the more examples we do here, the easier time you're going to have when you do it on your own. Negative 2xy times 2y. Multiply the numbers in front. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. X times, there's not another x, so it just stays x. Y times y is y squared. Okay, and then negative 2xy times 4x squared. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. X times x squared is x to the third. And y times no other y, so it just stays y. Number 6, negative 4x times 2x to the third. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. X times x to the third is x to the fourth. Negative 4x times negative 2x. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. X times x is x squared. And then lastly, negative 4x times 3. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And x times, there's not another x, so it just stays x. Last one for this section. Number 9. Ooh, this is a big one. This whole guy times 3xy. So we're just combining the like bases, right? This whole thing is a term, so we can't say we're combining like terms, but when you multiply terms, you're really matching up the like bases. So 2 and 3 are just the plain numbers. So 2 times 3 is 6. Then I've got an x here and an x here. X squared times x is x to the third. You add their exponents. Y squared times y is y to the third. Okay, and then I multiply this whole thing times 2y. 2 times 2 is 4. X squared times, there's not an x squared, so, or any x, so I just leave it x squared. And y squared times y is y to the third. And then lastly, I multiply this whole thing in front times 5x. So 2 times 5 is 10. X squared times x is x to the third. And y squared times, there's not another y, so it stays y squared. Okay, so it looks scary, but it's not. Just remember all of your rules of multiplying bases. 2 and 3 are the same base. 2 times 3 is 6. X and x are the same base. X squared times x, you add their exponents. 2 plus 1 is 3, so x to the third. Y squared times y, they're the same bases, so you add their exponents. 2 plus 1 is 3. Then you multiply by the next term. Then you multiply by the next term, and we get this guy. All right, down here at the bottom, simplify each expression. So this is kind of combining a few different rules that you've learned. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First off, I want to simplify this, so I need to distribute this x. So x times 3x is 3x squared, and x times negative 4 is negative 4x. And then I've got this minus 5x hanging off the end. Can I simplify that more? Yes, I can. 3x squared doesn't combine with anything, so it stays 3x squared. But negative 4x and negative 5x can be put together. They're like terms. So if you're down in a whole 4 feet and you go down 5 more, now you're at negative 9x. And we're done. That's it. We simplified. We're done. Number 12. So we want to simplify. We want to distribute this guy. So 6a times 2a. 6 times 2 is 12. A times a is a squared. 6a times negative b is going to be negative 6ab. We can't combine anything with the b, and the b doesn't combine with anything here, so we just multiply them together. Plus, I won't put the plus yet. Now we have this guy, so 2a times negative 4a. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. A times a is a squared. And 2a times 5b. 2 times 5 is 10. A times b is just ab. Okay, can we simplify this anymore? Yes, I can combine this a squared and this a squared, and I can combine this ab and this ab. So when I do that, 12a squared minus 8a squared is 4a squared. Negative 6ab plus 10ab is positive 4ab. So we're done. Number 14. We have a monomial multiplied by a trinomial, and then a monomial multiplied by a binomial. So first I want to distribute this 4n. 4n times 3n squared. 4 times 3 is 12. N times n squared is n to the third. 4n times n, it's positive 4. N times n is n squared. And 4n times negative 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. N times nothing is just n. And then now I want to look at the second part. Negative n times 3 is negative 3n. Negative n times negative n. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. N times n is n squared. Okay, can I combine any of this? Yes, I absolutely can. So I don't have another n to the third power, so 12n to the third is first. So I use that. Do I have another n squared? Yes, I do. 4n squared plus n squared is 5n squared. Use those. And then negative 16n minus 3n is negative 19n. So our answer, 12n to the third plus 5n squared minus 19n. And the last one I'm going to do in this video, there's 4 other examples, but they're similar, so I'm just going to stick to this. We have negative 2z times 4z squared. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Z times z squared is z to the third. 2z times negative 3z. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Z times z is z squared. And then negative 2z times 1 is negative 2z. So that's the first part. Then I have to move on to the second part. Negative z times 3z squared. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Z times z squared is z to the third. Negative z times 2z. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Z times z is z squared. Not a room. And then lastly, negative z times negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Z times nothing is z. So here's all of my terms. Now what can I combine? Do I have another z to the third? Yes, right here, negative 3z to the third. So negative 8 minus 3 is negative 11z to the third. So I use that. Then z squared, I've got 2 of those. 6z squared minus 2z squared, so 4z squared. And then negative 2z plus z is just negative 1z. So I'm done. And it's in standard form because it's the biggest degree down to the smallest degree, So if you have any questions on distributing or combining when you're multiplying monomials together, how to do that, please let me know.